Morning. Good morning, everyone. I gotta have a few sips of coffee this morning before we get started. I love the way this thing takes forever and day today. So, good morning. I'm Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes. We are loving my veteran. Let me get the good stuff out of the way. We are not paid counselors. We are not professionals. If you need help, please reach out and get it. And everything is copyrighted to Loving My Veteran. So, that's out of the way. All right, now that my days are a little better, please remember we have Let's Talk tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Girl, you better get your coffee because this topic today is going to set people on fire. That's my new thing. Pam, thank you for sharing your coffee with me this morning. Or with us this morning. This topic is literally going to set people on fire. So I'm going to give you a little history behind it. But first, y'all, as people are coming on this morning, don't forget, let's talk tonight, 7 p.m., because we'll probably talk about this topic a little more in depth. All I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen who may be watching, is get your Google ready, okay? Get your Google ready. I was blessed to get a pre-screening of a movie called Prescribing Normal. And I am meeting with Angela, who was one of the veterans in it, who helped do this movie, to get out what's going on to not only to our veterans, but to America as a whole in the psychiatric drug world and the world of psychotic medicine and psychology. I'm meeting with her tomorrow at 11, and we are going to screen it here. So it would be like a movie premiere. It is worth the watch. I've never had my eyes so opened in my entire life. And I Google and research all my drugs, at least I thought I did. So let's talk about prescribing drugs to the world. This is tough. So I want y'all to be in our situation for a few minutes. How many of us have rough days? How many of us experience anger? How many of us experience rage? How many of us get mad about a situation? How many of us, when we lose someone, grieve over that? We all, I'm there. Okay? But how many of us get drugged to a point that we don't feel? When I got diagnosed with all this stuff, I was given 2 mild antidepressants, which, by the way, after yesterday, done. Um, we all, these are normal feelings, okay? When you lose someone, you go through 5 stages of grief. That's normal. That is a normal thing. When you experience a tragedy, you grieve and go through the tragedy. It's normal. It's normal to be scared. It's normal to be angry. It's normal to be guilty. It's normal not to be and to have these emotions. And we as a society have equated normal with comfortably numb. That's what we've done. I'm going to use another simple analogy, and y'all going to be like, where the heck is she going with this today? But it'll make sense. You break your leg, okay? Well, let's say you break your leg in a car or whatever, right? So you break your leg. And when it initially breaks in the wreck or whatever, you don't necessarily feel that pain immediately. And your body is designed to do that. Your adrenaline kicks in and slows down that pain response, so you have that minute to get out or not get out, your fight or flight, and then it hurts like hell, right? Reminds you don't step on it. Even when they splint it or cast it, it hurts like hell. And over time, because your leg is not weight bearing now, over time, it doesn't hurt so much, right? Because that means that your body at that point could probably put a little weight on it. It reminds you that it's okay. Your body is designed to feel that pain. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have the little pain medication to knock the edge off, or you can't do that. But that's what your body is designed to do. So when any of us, veterans, any of us, feel these emotions, these anger emotions, these rage emotions, these emotions, they're never told it's okay to feel this. This is normal. This is normal. And you're going to work through this. Okay? There's never that kind of support. It is here, take this. I am a paramedic, y'all. I think I understand medicine. At least I thought I did. And I have bought into the normal. Good morning, Susan. I have bought into the normal. I went to my doctor, with all this stuff, my primary care I've known for 20 years, and I'm like, Scott, look, I'm overwhelmed. This is how I'm feeling. I can't sleep. I've got headaches. I've got this. And he said, here, I'm going to give you some stuff. We're going to wean you off of one. It'll just help take the edge off. Well, here I am 6 months later on the same medication. How many of us have been on other support groups or other groups or talked to other veterans' wives that have said, I need them to go to the VA to get on medicine? How many of us have done it? Raise your hand, because we all there. A little hands up signal. How many of us have said that? How many of us have said that it's okay to do that? How many of us have said that's where we want them to go? Let me give you a little something. When I tell y'all to research the drugs, you need to not research them on the drugs website. I need you to look into the chemical parts and the real warnings and learn to kind of read through those. Let me give you a little example about drugs and how they're working. Xanax. This study, can I please re-say this again? Xanax is one of the most prescribed antidepressants in the world. Well, in the United States now, because some countries won't even let you use it. Xanax is one of the most prescribed medications in the United States. So, how many of us have all heard, because Xanax is probably something we can all relate to at some point, that it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get Xanax into your system to reach therapeutic effect? Doctor told me that. They've all said it. Takes 4 to 6 weeks. It was a study done. It started in the 1970s, okay? So kind of just go there. Again, we're back to these people knew this for a long time. Xanax, and there was a placebo group and the people taking Xanax. They both got the same treatment. The medication, if there was counseling involved, there was counseling involved for both parties. The group that took the Xanax had immediate response to feeling better. Had immediate response to feeling better. The placebo group was still up here, the Xanax group was here. Over the 4 weeks, the initial 4 weeks, the Xanax group did better than the placebo group. Okay? They had less symptoms in 4 weeks than the placebo group. By 8 weeks out, they were exactly the same. By 14 weeks out, the placebo group was doing better, and the Xanax group was doing like 10 times worse. The gap was huge, and I've got the stuff. I will post it so you can see what I'm talking about. So what we hear from the doctors is, oh, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. Because that's what Big Pharma wants you to know. It says, in a test over 4 weeks, within 4 weeks, this is what we see. They are not regulated to show you the 14 weeks out. So they don't have to show you the 14 weeks out. So what are we doing? We're taking medication that was designed for short term to allow people to understand that we go through comfortably numb. Yeah, this is so amazing when Sarah writes this. He was truthful with his drug addictions, with the VA, so that's why we got allergy meds that aren't addictive. But there's more to it. As you're going through these processes, okay, as you're going through these processes, are we allowing our body to heal normally? What would have happened on day one when your veteran, now Sarah's is a little different. She has the TBI concept in there too. But what would have happened on day one, 24 hours later, if they would have sat them down and said, hey, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. These are normal feelings, but they don't. It's suck it up and be a good soldier. Suck it up and be a good soldier. In the EMS world, in the public safety world, when we have a bad wreck, a bad situation, a multiple vehicle situation, or even a single vehicle situation where there's a fatality, or even going into someone's home where there's a child that has died and we can't bring them back, we do a critical incident stress debriefing. Okay, we do that. We sit them down and we say, how are you feeling? And most of them, oh, we're good. Let me get back out on the street. No, it is mandatory that they sit down and they talk, and that they understand that they can have anger, and they understand that they can have fear, and they understand that they can feel rage, and they understand that something they see down the road may trigger that response, because they're going to realize I had a kid that was that age, or I've done something that was like that. And we tell them, yes, you need to be tough and do your job. We do this with firefighters. We do this with police officers. You need to be tough and you need to do your job. But it's okay. But how many times do we tell that to our veterans? How many of you have been through the VA system, where they go in and they tell their veteran, right? You tell your veteran, goes into his psychologist, and he follows little things that says mental health, which is a hard thing for them to do anyway, right? So they go into the mental health side. And how many of them spend an hour plus with initial intake? Just answer. You don't have to answer me. How many of them spend an hour plus with initial intake? How many of them are told, you know what, let's go to counseling for the next 4 to 6 weeks and see where you are? How many of them are told that Xanax, we're going to give you Xanax, take this little bit, you're going to be on it for a couple weeks and we'll get you off of it because it's going to help with that initial? How many are told that? Just the thing, it's numbers. Here's another number that's staggering for you. Staggering. The pharmaceutical company pays out in fraud claim stuff $32 billion a year. And do you know what they chalk it up to? The cost of doing business. You want to know why? Because the psychiatric medicine, pharmaceutical side makes $711 billion a year. So that $32 billion they're paying out doesn't mean anything. I fell over when I watched this, and I knew there was already drug interaction issues. I knew that there was drug interaction issues. I knew that there were problems. I knew that there were situations. I knew that we had issues with the drug companies. Never in my life did I know it was this bad till it was in my face. And it's not just happening to our veterans. I like to have fell over. The book that they use, the DSM, which is the psychiatric book that they use, and this came from a retired psychiatrist out of the military, and she is one badass woman, and hopefully we'll get to meet her. One badass woman. Do you know how they decide what treatment is? There is literally no scientific, no blood test, no nothing in this book that backs up the stuff. You don't have to have a blood test. You don't have to have an MRI. You don't have to have anything before they hand you these medications. And you're ready for this? They sit in a room and they say, acute, which means, just came on. Acute depression, acute anxiety disorder, how long should it last? 3 to 28 days. Nobody agree with that? Sound good? They vote. It's done. It's in the book. That book goes everywhere. So you got, a group of people sitting here writing this, and then you got the doctor in Podunk wherever, and he's writing, he's going back, and he looks at the book and he says, oh, it should take this, and this is what we're going to prescribe. And again, I know where it says counseling took years before your Richard opened up, because you know what happens, especially in the Vietnam era, nobody was told on day one that it's okay to feel this way. Nobody was told on day one, this is okay to feel this way. Nobody was told in basic training, you may experience these feelings and it's okay to talk to your buddies. Nobody was told that, because they were told to suck it up, fight on, and if you cry over a loss or if you do whatever, you're a puss. It's the truth. Ask them. They'll tell you that much. And had it have been okay and it not defined them as a puss at day one, how many more do you think would talk about counseling, would understand the levels of grief and what you go through? I have never been so sick in my entire life. Y'all know I get on tangents about speaking up for our veterans, speaking up for what's going on, and speaking up for the situation. But when I see this, I just get madder and madder. And it's not just happening to our veterans. This is a society thing. You know, they spent $250 billion paying for political gains to the PACs. It's all about the money. Follow the money. I go back into even think about cancer treatment, okay? You can't tell me with the billions and billions and billions of dollars that are spent in research over time that we don't have some way to deal with cancer better than we do now. I mean, for crying out loud, we can cure COVID in a year, to get the shot, be done. You can't tell me that we don't have that in the cancer world. But cancer is a $1 trillion a year industry. But I will say this, there's been improvements. When my dad was taking chemo 17 years ago, when my dad, before he died, was taking chemo, right? He was puking, and we were taking the ginger and they were giving him stuff. When my mom had breast cancer 15 years later, they told her, Linda, you're never going to get sick, and if you do, you need to call us because we got a cocktail that will make you not be sick anymore. And I'm thinking, we can make the cocktail that's not going to make you sick anymore, but we can't figure out what's causing the other? Okay. And I was grateful that my mom never puked and my mom never felt sick, but I was like, that makes no sense to me. And I never put it all out there till I really started thinking about money and following the money. It's the same way when we talk about chemicals. It's the same way when we talk about denial of health care. Follow that money trail. It was disgusting. And it happens across the board. Here's something else I didn't know. And I mean, I'm like crazy, right? She went to China for natural treatment. First shakes cost $200 a month for everything. Makes you think. It does make you think, son. It makes you think. Makes you think. Here's another thing that will totally blow your mind. And some of us that are older will remember. Can y'all remember how long a drug stayed name brand before you could get the generic? And I'll use a very simple drug. Coumadin was it. You could only get Coumadin in the name brand for a very, very, very long time. Okay? Then the generic came out, warfarin. But you could only get Coumadin for a very, very, very long time as the name brand. Now, as a drug comes on the market, it may be a year or less before it has a generic equivalent. This will blow your mind. Do you know you cannot sue the drug manufacturer of a generic drug? You cannot sue the generic. Nexium was another one. Yeah. You cannot sue the generic company. So go get your bottles and read how many of us are getting generic drugs. You can't see them. So you may not kind of figure out where this is all going to come into play, but you're going to see it by tomorrow. You're going to have like light bulbs going on like, what the hell are we doing here? We are pawns in the game of money. We are pawns in the game of pharmaceutical. We are pawns in the game of. You've already used our veterans for guinea pigs for everything else. Now you realize we are pawns in that game of pharmaceuticals. It is a. How do you think they fund a very expensive VA operation? How much money are they going to get? From what drug company are they gonna pay? What drug company are they going to pay? Is gonna pay for treatment? Hey, Leah. What drug company is going to fund the system for non-drug treatment and for good, fact-based counseling that walks you through the stages of grief? When we just showed you that Xanax doesn't reach therapeutic levels at 4 weeks, Xanax reaches its peak at 4 weeks. Anything after 4 weeks, it goes away. How many people are on Xanax for years? And the symptoms don't get better. Well, nobody's going to sit down and talk to me, and let's sit around and let's have a real conversation about how you feel. It's following money. And when you start to think about the money, and you start to understand this, then you realize what's going on. Again, how many of you in the VA system has your spouse or significant other been in counseling in the VA system for an hour or more before they were handed drugs? Most cases, it's 10 minutes, fill out a questionnaire, how are you feeling today, here you go. Klonopin's another one. They give Klonopin out like candy. Klonopin is one of those drugs that are one of the last choices in resorts. And it is given usually to people in a psychosis state. Not to people who are having a bad time. But we've never sat down from day one and said, it's okay. And so our veterans carry this guilt with them. So, one of the things that has helped us, and one of the things that I think would help so many others, is discuss and learn the stages of grief. Because even 10, 20, 30, 50 years later, you can walk through the path of the stages of grief and understand that it's acceptable. And when you get people on the same page, veterans on the same page who say, you know what, this is normal. I'm not crazy. This is normal. This is okay to feel this way. You're gonna find improvement across the board. We had to do that. We had to talk about letting things go, about our own grief, about things I had to let go, about things he had to let go, about the grief process that you go through. We had to talk about that. That it was okay for me to feel this way, but not be stuck there. That it was okay for me to do this, but not be stuck there. That it was okay for him to feel this, but not be stuck there. And that's what happens. But instead, we walk in and we say, oh, you're having a bad time here. Follow the money. If we sat down and did a critical incident stress debriefing to these spouses, where I could teach you, or anybody could teach you, how to go through critical incident stress debriefing, how to approach them, what to say back, to tell them it's okay and let them know it's normal and not judge them, and you have that background, and it's a shame that it falls on us or anybody other than the system that was designed to help them. We're having to use places like Shepherds to deal with TBIs. We're having to use places like Emory to deal with PTSD because they're not following the throw the drugs at me stuff. And they're letting them deal with the real things. Look at Wellbutrin. Remember the Wellbutrin commercial? I remember that now. It was a little bubble kind of sitting there, kind of sad looking little bubble. And it says you don't always have to feel this way. And SSRI is the problem. And you don't always have to feel sad. You start taking Wellbutrin and you're going to be happy and your bubble start to smile. Right? But you know what? When you talk to somebody who says it's not always going to be this way, today go look at the flowers. Life isn't measured in days, it's measured in moments. What are your good moments? Things that we talk about every single day. What are your good moments? What are your good things? What are this? You're going to find, and we're not taking drugs. You know, there is one drug that most of us know works. But God forbid we can't legalize that. I mean, it's legal in some states. But for a veteran who lives in a state where it's not legal, what happens? Or a veteran, this is even more screwed up, a veteran that lives in a state where it's legal and goes to a VA, period, because the VA is federally ran, right? And they're using cannabis that is legally prescribed by a doctor in the state they live in where it's legal, but they go to the VA and the VA automatically labels them a drug addict because they're using cannabis. But you give them Xanax, Klonopin, benzos. That's okay. They're not addicted. They're not a drug addict because they're prescribed. Well, so is the darn marijuana. People get over it, just in a different state. And that is where the issue becomes. One of the doctors, the psychiatrist that retired from the military, said, as a military psychiatrist, she had more control over any service member's life than anybody else in the system, because she could ruin their careers, medically discharge them, dope them up and say they were fine. She had the ability to do whatever she chose by what she wrote in her notes. We're letting the pharmaceutical companies and the mental health people define who we are. find who you are. Do you know why a lot of these guys won't go get treatment? My ex-husband's one of them. He doesn't want it anywhere that he has PTSD because he's afraid it'll stop him from buying a gun. He doesn't want it to have PTSD because it will affect his EMS career. A lot of these guys don't want it defined in their stuff because Jeremy flat out said it to us. And he said this on a Let's Talk It one night. He didn't want to be diagnosed with PTSD because it would automatically disqualify him for a job at Border Patrol, which is where he really wanted to go based on his police background. But I'm telling you, smoke a little marijuana and get that addicted in your stuff, you're going to disqualify from all that too. But take the 30 drugs that people send you home with and that you're addicted to and you're no longer an addict because you're not an addict under the real world. Come on. Follow the money. So what I challenge you to do today, and this is a very interesting challenge. Find out your spouse's drug. Don't go to the norm. Look at the prescribers. Okay? Look at the prescribers. It's in there, what the doctor needs to know. And you see how many. You see how many of them, read it, tell you this is short-term use. Sarah says you tell them that you were addicted to cocaine and be firm that you don't want anything addicted. Because some of the vets aren't aware that it's okay to get the right help if you claim your mental health status because you can't get a gun permit. That's right. But this isn't just a VA problem. It is a massive VA problem because it's what funds the VA. But it isn't just a VA problem. It's a society problem because we take and say that normal is pain-free. That normal is comfortably numb. We don't let society know, our veterans know, our spouses know. Nobody was prepared how to deal with this. That pain is part of the process. I think about childbirth, and I can remember this, y'all. We didn't have all the drugs that y'all people did, especially if our babies came quick, right? But I think about childbirth, and they tell mothers, and they do, it's going to be painful, but you'll forget that pain just like that, and you're going to see that beautiful baby, and you're going to have another one eventually. And it's true. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was pregnant in the summer, I was waddling like a cow. I had retained all this fluid. I couldn't see my toes. It was awful. When I was 7.5, 8 months pregnant, I didn't care to ever be pregnant again. Right? Because I was experiencing all these things, but I had another one. And we have to be, yeah, they did. We have to be able to understand that pain and discomfort are part of the process. And that's what we have to address. We don't live in a world of happy, normal. Why do you think we're in the mess we're in? We don't live in happy, normal, pain-free, everybody. I mean, it's like we all want to live at Woodstock or something. I love you. Mine can't see. He has the COVID-19 baby going on. He can't see his toes either. But if you want to keep me comfortably numb, send me to Woodstock and let me hear Jimi Hendrix play. Okay? I'm just saying. That's the mindset we're in now. We're in the mindset of comfortably numb. So I know this was a little off thing, but it's going to lead us up to being able to watch Prescribing Normal. The absolute best documentary I have ever seen. Pam only had one child. She's smarter than the rest of us. I have two. She's smarter than a lot of us. And my Tinkerbell one, yeah, that's because I'm going to Disney in a few weeks. I'm so excited. I'm not going into parks, but I love Disney. Yeah, I'm a Tinker freak. So it just I want y'all to be very aware about the truths about this stuff. Any of you who want to, please send us a message. Send me an email, lovingmyveteran@gmail.com, that wants to understand critical incident stress debriefing and how to walk through those stages. I will be happy to set up a separate class on that. I think that is probably one of the greatest things, and that has really helped Carl and I more than anything, is understanding. Girl, it makes lots of sense. Don't, and I must say this, Erica, thank you for pointing that out. If your veteran is on these drugs, do not, do not stop them cold turkey. The withdrawal symptoms are horrific, and some of them, depending on how long they've been on these drugs, can cause long-term health effects that may have to be on some form of medication forever. So absolutely do not stop them. I love you, Pam. I could say so much, but I am just not saying it today. So be very, very careful. We are very careful when you deal with addiction and coming off of addiction. It is not fun. Most addicts are given other drugs to work themselves down off of. We take very first thing that we have for an alcoholic who's coming off and going through DTs. The minute we get them to the hospital and they are in severe DTs, they give them a beer. Absolutely. Because you cannot, regardless of what your addiction is. So do not stop the medication cold turkey. But what I'm hoping is that we went, ooh, tech nerd to soldier. Look, I went from Santa Claus to a soldier. Y'all think I'm kidding. I'll share those pictures with y'all. Sarah will just die laughing. So, it is really important that you understand that. It is really important that you understand that. And it is really important that we start to come up with, because we're the ones who are left out, y'all. We hear what they say. Oh, go get them on medicine, they're going to feel better. Oh, get them counseling, they're going to feel better. Oh, yeah, when the counseling, whatever. Go do this, they're going to feel better. But we're doing it uneducated. I did it uneducated. And I'm in this field, and I did it uneducated. So we need to educate before we sit here and say this, or you're going to have a much bigger mess. And I want those of you whose spouses are on these medications to think long and hard. When they first got on them, did you see good results till about 4 to 8 weeks out? And after a few months, maybe a little longer, did you see things change and get worse? And then did you go back to the doctor and get something more or different? Just think about that. Those are kind of your things. So, anyway, I am way late in this discussion. I am going to spend a whole lot of time today trying to get the videos up to where they need to be. Do not forget, let's talk tonight. There is so much we need to go over and talk about, and just people airing things out and having a good day around the board. So y'all talk about that, share that. And we will see you tonight. Maybe Nakia won't talk about her madam stories. Always make sure you have set of depends when you come to the Let's Talk, because some people get us laughing so much that you like to pee yourself. That's all I can say about that. So I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all tonight. Bye.